What's up, guys? Welcome back. We came up with a new name called Kai Pods. Let us know what you think. Yeah, we're trying it out. We're
introducing our new guest.
We're introducing Chris
Marquez.
Chris Marquez.
AKA 559 Detailing.
That's right.
Chris Marquez.
Yes,
okay, so you detail, man.
Yes, sir.
So let me ask you. First of all, how old are you?
21.
Oh, I think
21 having his own business.
That's crazy. Look
That's
at him.
pretty
Oh, you're
good, bro.
21.
That's pretty good.
Shoot.
21, man. 21. Feel old. Feel a little old.
Did you graduate with him?
I did.
Well, we didn't graduate, but yeah, we graduated.
So 2022.
Yeah, 2020.
Oh, 2020. And so you got into detailing right after high school?
No, so it was actually
Or were you
as
doing it
soon
during?
as we got into the COVID break. So I had been detailing prior to that, but the business picked up as soon as we hit that sort of like COVID break, that
Yeah.
little break that we took. That's when my business started taking off.
Would you say COVID was like a good thing for you then? Since
Yeah, man. You know, I look at it. I look at COVID as, I mean, you can look at it a lot of ways, man. But I mean, I take what I can. I mean, you know, a lot of us lost our senior. I mean, everybody lost their senior year that year. Didn't get to, play baseball, which is something that I've done my entire life. So, when COVID hit, that was a period of time where, I had to look back on, okay, what am I going to do with this time? Because there was a lot of free time on my hands. So I was like, I got this thing going for me. Why not make something of it,
So how'd you start doing it then? Like, was your dad into cars, or was your dad into detailing? Or?
No, so actually, I was fortunate enough to when I turned 16, the summer I turned 16, my dad got me a Jeep. So it was just kind of one of those things that,
Took care of your
I would
car.
come home on a Friday night, after a football game, 10:30 at night. And it was just something that relaxed me, after a long game, whether that had been a win or a loss. I would come home, relax, turn on the stereo, and just wash my car, man. And it was just something that I enjoyed doing.
And that was like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I hated washing my car, to be honest. That's crazy though. So it was like kind of relaxing to you.
Yeah, 100%. It's therapeutic. I would go out there, and it was just one of those things where I look forward to it. I mean, I had neighbors come up to me all the time and, tell me, like, dude, you're going to wash the paint off of that thing. You're washing it so much. I mean, there were times where it's like...
Hey, that's dedication right there,
The moment I saw a speck of dirt on that thing, I went through a puddle at school, went home, and I was hitting that panel with some speed wax.
Almost, so were you like almost OCD-ish?
100%. Yeah, it wasn't until I actually started using the Jeep for work that OCD, it was just one of those things where it was too hard to keep up with. Because in order to keep the vehicle at the standards that I had it in high school, because I mean, keep in mind, I was driving it from my house, which is like a block away from the high school, to the parking lot, to McDonald's at lunch, and back home. So it wasn't a lot of miles, man. So it wasn't getting too dirty, but when I started using the Jeep for my business, is when it started getting super dirty. And it was just one of those things where, like, you come home from some weeks, doing 20 cars, the last thing you want to do is come home and clean your own car.
That's true. That's
cool, man. So and it's like it's an entrepreneurial like path. Did you ever think about going to college or like?
I am going to college, so I'm full time.
You're going to college?
Yeah.
So you're full time, and you got your little side gig going, hustling.
That's
bro. That's really good, actually.
Yeah, man. It was just one of those things where it just sprung up on me. I mean, we can kind of, I don't know if it's on the list, but I mean, I can go into depth on how I actually started the business.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously,
for sure.
So obviously we know my business started during COVID, but what, a lot of people don't realize is that prior to that, the reason that I had started detailing in the first place was because the job that I had previously, which was a lifeguard, I couldn't do that anymore. Everything shut down, and I just wasn't able to go out there and do something that I love doing, because I had been doing that for, since I was 15.
Damn.
So like 3 to 4 years, man. So I was doing that for a while. So, when I was out there detailing cars, it was one of those things where my neighbors would come up to me. So it actually started with family members. So I was detailing my Jeep consistently, and you develop, habits, or you develop, good habits, right? So when I was detailing, I mean, I was constantly watching videos. I was buying the best products. So I started doing my grandparents' cars. I started doing my aunt's cars. I started doing my uncle's
yeah.
cars. I started doing my
for real.
cousin's cars. And they noticed, like, hey, this kid does pretty good work. At the time, they were taking their cars to another detailer in Kerman. They're like, hey, I got my nephew over here. I'm going to pay him the $20. Because at the time, $20 was a lot of money. To a kid in high school,
No, for
Yeah.
sure.
$20 is a lot of money. That's going to last you a week. That's a haircut. That's a lunch,
Yeah, for
So
sure.
they're like, you know what? We're going to help this kid out. We're going to help my nephew out, my grandson, whatever. So I started doing their cars. And, they would show up to parties. They'd show up to events. And they always had the cleanest rides because I was doing it every week. So, they started having people come up to them like, hey, who does your car? So they were telling me. But at the time, I was detailing. I would go to their house, pick up the car. I'll drop off my Jeep, pick up the car keys, drive their car to my house, detail the car. Once I was done with the car, I would take it back to them, and that was that. So at the time, I didn't have the means to actually go to people's houses and be a mobile detailer.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Yeah, so there was a lot of things that I had to figure out, and when it came time to like, okay, I have a lot of people coming up to me asking, I'm turning away money, because obviously these people, they're coming at you with money. They want your business. Well, at the time it wasn't a business, but they wanted my services. So, I would tell them like, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm not able to drive out to Fresno. So I was like, it took, a spur of the moment. Like, somebody offered me, I believe it was like $80 to go out to Fresno. And at the time, working as a lifeguard, I mean, $80 is 2 days of work.
Yeah.
So the fact that I was able to go out there and do a 2-hour detail and make $80, that was big to me.
Yeah.
So I threw all of my equipment in the back of my Jeep, took off, did my first detail, a 2-hour detail, took me 4 hours to do. I was just nitpicking at every little thing, because at the time, one, I didn't have any customers afterwards, and two, it's like, anytime you start a new business, you're always going to take certain precautions.
You want to be the best.
You want to take every, precaution or every measure to ensure that the customer is going to be happy.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't view them as customers. I saw them as family friends.
Ooh.
So, it was one of those things where like, hey, these people have direct relationships to people that I love, family members. So the last thing I want to do is,
not do a good job.
Yeah, not do a good job, exactly. So, that's how I started my business, and it's,
What would you say is the farthest you've ever done or been to for detail?
Sanger. So Sanger is, what is that, like 45, 50 minutes away?
Yeah.
So 45, 50 minutes away, man.
So should you charge like for gas and mileage and all that?
I don't. So the way that I've kind of priced out my packages is I have a $50 package. So I'm speaking for now.
Yeah.
For my prices now. So I have a $50 package, I have a $100 package, and I have a $200 package. But I also offer additional services on the side that are additional. They cost more, but I don't sell those.
That's a hustler, man. That's respect, bro. Honestly, that's really cool.
Yeah, I have my customers. If they want those services, they come to me. Because the last thing that I want to see, or I want to be, is a stereotypical salesman. Hey, I have this $50 package, a $100 package, a $200 package, but hey, I also have this $500 ceramic coating, and it's polished, and they get scared, and now they're like, $500, like that's a lot of money. I'm not gonna get. Then I'm not getting the job.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you build a rapport with the customers, and then eventually those bigger jobs start to come.
That's smart.
So that's
where.
smart.
How did you educate yourself in your is
pricing?
it just natural for you to think these ways of how to approach customers, or did you educate yourself in like reading some kind of like how to start a business or working on customer service and stuff like that, or is it just all natural to you?
It's just it's natural, I mean, you can look at it two ways, obviously there was no books that I read. It was just one of those things where I always had, I was, one of the intangibles that I had was my ability to communicate with people and make an impactful first impression. That was the biggest thing. I was always given that, is anytime I would meet, whether that be my dad's friends, my dad's coworkers, my mom's friends, my mom's coworkers, the one thing that they had always referenced back or made a point to, acknowledge my parents, parenting skills is how well I came off. And that's one of the things that, like I said, it's just an intangible. It's something that came to me naturally. But also, it's trial and error, dude. when you're doing something for 3 years and you make thousands of relationships, you learn how to communicate with people in different ways.
Yeah.
And no one person is the same, so you gotta come at people differently. So like I would come at you differently than I would say come at Timmy because I don't know you yet. So it's gonna be more of a professional conversation. Whereas me and Timmy, we're gonna joke around. I kind of have a rapport with him already. So it's just different, and it's just one of those things where it comes with time.
Yeah, 3 years too is quite a bit of time. Is any of your family members like entrepreneurial? Like, is your father? Does he have a side gig?
No, and that was one of the things my family members come at me all the time and say how proud they are of me because
That's cool, man.
I'm the only person. Actually, as of like a year ago, I was like the only person on both sides of the family to do their own thing, to have their own side hustle. Since then, I have a cousin who started DJing. I have a cousin who started bartending, and I had a cousin who started what do they have? A photography business. So it's cool to see that I don't know this personally. I never communicated it with them, but who knows? Maybe I rubbed off on them. And,
I was gonna ask that too. I was like, maybe inspired them or something.
Yeah, so that's the way that I choose to look at it. They're smart people. So I'm sure I didn't have too big of a piece of the reason as to why they actually started their business in the first place. But I'd like to think that I did. I had some sort of.
It's contagious. It's very contagious when you see somebody like who's willing to put in the time and they're working for themselves and like you see like man, sometimes you only hear about people being successful with their own endeavors, but to see like somebody close to you like be like, oh wow, like look at them, like they took it on by themselves and they're doing it, like oh shoot, maybe I can do it too.
Yeah, it's one of those things where not me. That's the last thing that you're gonna think. It's like you're never optimistic, or I don't want to say you're never optimistic, but it's hard to think optimistically in when you're creating a new business, right? It's super hard because there are just so many things that can go wrong, and I think that's one of the reasons that I was so successful in the first place. I am so successful in the first place is because this, like I said, the business it jumped at me. It wasn't one of those things where I was forced to work the amount of hours that I was working. It was one of those things where I did it out of pure passion, and if I had 2 jobs one week and 10 jobs the next week, it made no difference. $100 opposed to $200, there was no difference. The only reason that I was detailing in the first place was because I loved doing it. I was doing favors for other people. The intent was never to grow my my bank account. It was more of, like I said when I first started, to do favors for people, and the last thing that I wanted to do was because like I said, when family members come at you and they're asking you to do something for them, you're not gonna say no. So that's yeah.
And coming up with this business, what would you say would be like the biggest your biggest, what's the word?
Obstacle.
Your biggest obstacle. Like for us, it was coming up with the logo. That little guy right there. That was our biggest obstacle. Trying to find like an official logo. What would be your biggest obstacle?
That's a tough one. I was extremely blessed when the way everything worked out. I there was no rush to get customers. There was no lack of customers at any point in time. There was always people, and that's partially in part to the quality of work that I was providing.
Yeah.
But there never was any lack of business for me. So to think that there was any sort of obstacle that I had to overcome, nothing is coming to mind at the moment. There were, when I had started, I didn't have the funds to purchase top of the line equipment that I now have, that now allow me to provide even better quality services. So if anything, I'd say that's was the biggest obstacle, was kind of just being able to purchase nice enough equipment to be able to provide quality services.
So your quality services built you leads too, right? So have you struggled with finding like clients and stuff, or has that ever been a struggle, or is it like your work was so good that people just referred you, like word of mouth was so powerful for you because of your work? Like,
Yeah,
do you
so-
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. So when the biggest thing that I had learned from my job, my business was relationships. Relationships is the absolute most important aspect in your ability to grow a business. It doesn't matter what business, you have. If you're able to create relationships and lasting relationships in that, it's extremely difficult to have any sort of or experience any sort of failure. Now keep in mind, failures are inevitable, but when you have relationships and you have people that support you, overcoming those failures is that much easier because you have people. In my case, I had family, and I had those people, those support systems. I mean, my grandfather was one of the biggest reasons that I started detailing in the first place. He was actually the person who bought me my first polisher. It's $250, and at the time, I mean, I was a 17-year-old kid. I didn't have them $250 to go buy a polisher, so he bought it for me. He gave me his truck to work on, and those sorts of things, those relationships, and those relationships extend out to new customers. That being able to market yourself and create friendships with people, that opens up so many doors that a lot of people overlook. When you go in, because I can look at things as customers as money, right?
Yeah.
Obviously a new customer means new money, and that's
Like
that's
a transaction.
yeah, it's a transaction. Exactly, a transaction. I don't like looking at relationships like that. I like, or I'm sorry, I don't like looking at my customers like that. I want to create relationships with them, so when I do provide them these quality services, right, they're that more likely to refer me to other people. Because the last thing, I mean, we've all experienced bad customer service.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I know you work at Starbucks. I don't know if you've ever worked
Starbucks. I used to
okay,
work at
Starbucks. I don't know
Subway too.
where you've worked, but that's you never want to go back to an establishment or a business that treats you poorly. I mean, Starbucks, one of the main reasons that or Chick-fil-A, for example, the biggest thing on social media about Chick-fil-A is, doesn't matter how bad of a day the employees are having, they're gonna greet you with a smile. And that's the same way that I take my business. Is every time I go see a customer, no matter the day that they're having, I go in there, I come in with a smile, I make conversation with them, and that's one of the things that I know I'm rambling,
No,
but
bro, this is perfect. I love it.
that's one of the things that I've enjoyed the most is actually seeing how vulnerable people can get with somebody that they barely know. I mean, I've had people come out and open up to me about relationship issues, family issues,
Isn't that crazy?
problems that they're having, within their circle, and they're telling some, at the time, 18-year-old kid all of these problems. And me being a sponge, I was absorbing all of that. I was taking it in and processing it, and I mean, years of just processing conversations that I've had with people has allowed me to, like I said, once again, circling back, make relationships with people and connect with them to where they feel comfortable enough to not only bring their vehicles back to me, because that's important in itself, and we can talk about that, but also feel comfortable enough to communicate with me, to tell me if they have a problem, to tell me if my last job that I did, that they didn't like it, that I want them to feel comfortable with me telling me, hey, I've been bringing my car with you for the last 3 months, and the last couple of times that you've come, you haven't done a very good job. It's not matching the same quality that I had seen initially. I've never had that happen to me before, fortunately, but it's just one of those things where I want my customers to feel like that with me.
That's cool, man, because they are recurring customers too, so that's super vital for you. And it's so crazy for me to hear you say like stuff like that, and like you tell me that you haven't read any books talking about like the importance of relationships and stuff, because another factor too is like you never know who somebody's going to bring to you, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be about your business of car detailing. But let's say you mentioned to them that you're either looking for, let's say you're looking for another trailer, you're trying to hire another guy, and then you talk to them about that. Well, now every time you plant that seed into a customer and you have that relationship, they're more inclined to like, be like, hey man, I know somebody who's trying to sell the trailer. Like if you're trying to expand this is just an example, but to expand your detailing business, and then like, that's why relationships are so important.
No, 100%. It's one of those things where you have a bank of relationships, and at any given point in time, you can reach into your bank and call up somebody. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've called up customers. I mean, I've had from people fixing my truck to people putting lights underneath my Jeep, underneath my trailer. I have LED lights. I have like 16 LED lights under my Jeep and under my trailer that are the red, blue, green, so they change colors. I had an electrician do that for me. I have pool guys. I've had people make rugs for my aunts for Christmas. I've had, somebody make a cornhole set for my father. All of these relationships, they're all due to my business.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think one thing I like about you personally and your business is the fact that like you build like you said, the relationships. I think like for Starbucks, our main thing would be making the customer feel like priority, making them feel comfortable. That's why they come back.
Exactly.
And I feel like you built that with your company already, like quick and like, well, not quick, but like naturally.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like I said. I mean, it's one of the biggest things, if not the biggest thing that, leads to, returning customers and allows you to grow your business.
Yeah.
Without recurring customers, you're not gonna be able to efficiently run a business, right?
Yeah,
Because
100%.
you rely on those people coming back to you. If Starbucks, if they didn't have those customers come back, eventually you're gonna run out of customers. Now, obviously,
100%, yeah.
I'm still in the general sense, in the grand scheme of things, I'm extremely small, so there's never a lack of business. I mean, I could go detail everybody's car in the Central Valley once, and I mean, I wouldn't ever have enough time to do that. But it's nice having reoccurring customers,
Do you have any plans of expansion for your business? Like,
so
do you have enough customers to even think about that?
yeah, I've thought about that. But like I said, I'm in college right now, and I'm getting my prerequisites done to become a nurse.
That's pretty cool.
And eventually become a CRNA. So right now it's just it never felt like the right time to expand my business. I was never turning away business, because the way that I saw it was, you should never expand or attempt to expand your business if you're not turning away business. The moment you start turning away business consistently is when I felt at that moment would be the right time to hire somebody to pick up on those details. And like I said, I'm gonna go on these tangents all day with you.
I love these tangents.
But when thinking of expanding, so let's say somebody like Starbucks, it's easy for them to expand. Why? Because the skill set, nothing against Starbucks workers,
No, you're good.
but it's something that is scripted.
Yeah.
That you're able to just put, John Doe on the street, put them in a Starbucks work environment, and they'd be able to pick up on the orders quickly.
Yeah.
With detailing, there are so many things, aspects, and these little sorts of details that drastically affect the quality of service that the business that I have provides for people.
Yeah.
So for me to bring somebody else in and be able to
Do the same work.
exactly, because if I were to send somebody out under the umbrella of 559 Detail, I'd make damn sure that they're gonna provide the same, if not better, quality work than I would.
Yeah.
Because the last thing that I want to do is lose a customer because I'm over here trying to expand my business, trying to make more money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, because obviously expanding your business, you're attempting to make more money by reaching new customers. But if you're not providing those new customers quality results, then that's going to trickle down to, you know, your reoccurring customers, and, you know, that's just it's going to snowball, and, you know, you're going to take your business, you know, from a 5-star business to, you know, now you have somebody giving 2-3 star, you know, quality, you know, service, and it's just gonna mess everything
No, yeah,
up,
that makes
man.
sense.
So it was never the right time.
But do you have any plans of doing? Because I'm assuming if you're going for nursing and you use the CRM, what is it?
CRNA, so Certified Registered Nurse Anesthetist, so somebody who administers.
Is that going to be your career path where you think?
100%, yeah. So I'm planning on. I'm currently taking the prerequisite. I'm done taking the prerequisites for the nursing program. Now I'm currently in the process of applying to nursing program. The only thing that I have to do is take the TEAS exam, which I'm studying for that right now. That's been a hassle in itself, man. But I mean, I'm looking forward to the next chapter,
That's pretty cool, bro.
of my life. But you know, once again, to reference back to your question, I don't plan on expanding anytime soon. I'm actually planning on giving the business to my brother. He's currently a senior at Kerman High, so when he starts up, you know, college, I mean, one of the biggest pros of having your own business is you make your own schedule.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you're in college and, you know, you're in this new environment, I can't tell you how, you know, pivotal and, you know, important it's been for me to be able to make my own schedule. There have been so many circumstances where I had a test that I was extremely underprepared for, and I was able to take a day off to, you know, study for that test, and I was able to, you know, pass the test. Whereas if somebody in your situation, or somebody in your situation, you would have to make 2 or 3 calls to, you know, call in the next day, and sometimes that's not possible. And, you know, that can likely, I mean, in some instances, you know, result, if you do it enough times, results in, you know, you being fired and you have no job. So the fact that I built something, I don't plan on just throwing it away. I plan on handing it off to my brother and, you know, having him continue on the 559 detail legacy, cool. Man. That's so cool. Just keeping it in-house. And, you know, another thing too is, like, you know, if I give it to my brother, he has the same last name as me. So just, it makes the customers feel that much more comfortable knowing that I'm handing the keys to, you know, somebody who, I mean, there's nobody, you know, more that I trust than, you know, my brother and my family members. So there's nobody better to take over the business, man.
So do you think when you get into nursing and you get a job in nursing, you're probably going to stop the business altogether? Like you'll probably stop doing the detailing?
Yeah, so me personally, the next 2 years, once I do,
because I assume you're going to be super busy, right?
Yeah, so it's going to be extremely rigorous. You know, getting through the 2-year nursing program at Fresno City, that's where I'm hoping I'm going to get in. Been praying on it. So, you know, when I get accepted into the Fresno City program.
That's a great mindset, win. Exactly.
Because words are powerful.
Yeah, man, 100%. Affirmation, positive affirmation. You know, once I get into that program, I'm going to have no time to detail cars, man. That's the last thing on my mind is that, you know, my brother is more than capable, or will be more than capable of taking over the business. If need be, I'd be more than happy to kind of come in there and, you know, help him out on the weekends and stuff. But my main focus is going to be nursing, because as much as I love detailing, it's extremely hard work, man. I mean, so it's hard.
This is where my mind goes, right? Every time I talk with somebody about business, one of the conversations I always have, you know, just because I like talking about it, is plans for expansion.
Yeah.
Right? So what I think, right, when you tell me, like, that your brother's going to inherit it, that's freaking cool, man. You want to keep it in-house and stuff. But wouldn't it be just as cool to have, like, because you'd still have to teach your brother.
Correct, yeah.
So if you think about it, that you'd still have to teach another person the skills that you
might as well do it at the same time.
I'm not saying to try to expand so much altogether, but maybe be like, okay, how about let me get one more. Let's see how it goes. It's me and my brother before I take off. And then if you're able to do that and you're like, hey, you know what? I've doubled my services, right? Then you'd be like, hey, well, I'm about to get into nursing. And a way to track your customers, like like the way they feel is just give them a phone call. Hey, I just want to know, did this person take care of your car?
How satisfied they are.
Just to see, to make sure that the satisfaction is always there.
Yeah.
And then if you were to make a phone call and be like, hey, actually, I apologize. Make sure you take care of that customer. Send the guy back out. You can go with him. But that's where I go to work. I feel like you've built something so cool that not a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
That this is just me, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is how I think. To just let it go and give it, and that's cool. You want to give it to your brother. Maybe you can have your brother come in with you, but to be able, because what if you were able to expand this thing to where like this thing's making, like you got like
triple.
you got like
quadruple.
you got like 6 people.
Yeah.
Because people think this is impossible, but look at a great example of somebody who's doing a service that you might not think is able to expand. Ted and Bill and Ted's lawn service.
Yeah.
Started from Kermit. Who would have thought doing yard work you can make money, right? Like crazy money, right?
Yeah,
But Bill and
100%.
Ted, literally people who from Kermit. You know Teddy?
I don't tell you.
Okay, he's a wrestler. He coached me for a little bit for wrestling,
Yeah.
but so I think he started with his dad and then he took it over and then now he's expanded it.
Yeah,
to
so
now-
his dad actually, I worked for the father. I actually just did Bill Senior's truck. He has a very nice old school Ford truck, and I just did that this past week. And great guys, man. I mean, yeah, like you said, they're the epitome of, anything is possible when the you're willing to put in that extra hour, take that extra step, losing that extra dollar to provide quality service for your people. And I see exactly where you're coming from, but it's you got to realize that detailing, and not a lot of people understand this, is how time consuming. I mean, it's taken me 3 years to get to where I am now, to get to the comfort level, to be damn sure that when I'm finished with the vehicle, it's exactly what the customer wants. And there are so many things that go into that, man. I mean, there are so many intricate little details that go into providing those sorts of that sort of quality, right, to your customers. And that's super hard to teach somebody. I mean, I have a buddy of mine who has been trying to find somebody to run his mobile services for the last 2 to 3 years that he's been in business, and has still yet to find anybody. That's one of the hardest things that I've heard. Every single business entrepreneur that's attempting to expand their businesses, hard work is extremely hard to find. To find somebody that has the same mindset as me, right? Take that extra step, lose that extra dollar. Not a lot of people have that mindset, and I don't blame them. I have a lot more skin in the game than somebody else would, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to say, but I'm gonna work harder for myself than I am for you.
Yeah.
As much as I'd like to think that I work just as hard,
Nobody's gonna care about your business.
nobody's gonna care about it. It's my name. It's my name on that trailer. So
Yeah.
for me to actually throw somebody out on the streets and have them, represent 559 Detail,
Yeah.
represent me, they're not going. At the end of the day, no matter who it is, they're not going to provide. Now, I don't want to say provide quality service, but they're not going to provide the same quality that I would, right? And that's super hard to find. I mean, it's extremely rare that, you're able to find somebody that's able to do that for you, man. So that's what scares me, is I'm not willing to hand over the reins to somebody, because failure is inevitable. And at this point in my detailing, career, for me to send somebody out and accept the fact that they're gonna fail is extremely hard for me, because what ends up happening is their work directly reflects on me,
You, yeah.
and the last thing that I would ever want to see is somebody speaking poorly on my business's name for something that I've worked so hard to build.
I would imagine, yeah, 100%.
But okay, this is where I like talking about this stuff, right?
No, 100%.
But okay, if your brother, let's say you're really passing on to your brother,
Mhm.
and then you built his business,
Yeah.
right? And then your brother is not putting in that same effort, because everybody's different.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
So let's say your brother's like, oh man, dude, you're slacking, dude. People aren't. Would you be like, dude, what are you doing? What?
Yeah, 100%. That's the one person that That's
You're
what
probably
makes
gonna
it.
expect the most from him.
No,
too.
not only that, but that's the one person I'm gonna come up to. I'm gonna be like, hey, what's up? I'm gonna come up to him and I'm gonna be straight with him. I'm gonna just like your brother, and then you come up to him if your brother's acting out. You're gonna come up to him and be like, hey, I'm not paying you because I'm extremely generous when it comes to my family, and when I hand the business over to my brother, I'm not going to be asking for a lot. I'm going to be asking, obviously, I've worked the past 3 years to build this business, so I'm not going to just give him 100% of the profits, but I can guarantee you.
I thought that was what you were doing.
No. I mean, working. I'm not going to be working
I
for
thought
2
that's
years.
what you're doing. That's why I was like, why you let it go? Like, why you
Yeah,
let it go?
no, I'm not gonna let it go. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna still have skin in the game. I'm gonna be making the appointments for him. I'm gonna be, guiding him along because I'm just not gonna let go of the business. I worked 3 years to build it. But going back to my brother messing up is, I know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, me personally, I don't ever think that that's something that my brother's gonna do.
Yeah.
I've seen him work. I've taken him out to work with me, and he's an extremely hard worker. He messes up, yeah, but he's accountable for it. He owns
That's
up
cool.
to it. And if there ever comes a time where he's not, being accountable, my job as a big brother is to hold him accountable.
Yeah, 100%.
And sometimes you gotta be, you can't be big brother all the time. You gotta be the boss.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm gonna be. So I'm gonna come at him like, hey, you can't. I'm just gonna explain it to him in a way where he's able to reflect and understand where I'm coming from and fix whatever's wrong. But like I said, I don't see that happening. I know my little brother. I know he's gonna go out there, and when it's his time to take over the business, he's gonna give it 110%, man. It's his last name on that trailer too, so
Yeah.
it's never crossed my mind at all.
I guess what I'm thinking is because finding workers, it not only applies to your detailing thing, right? Because it also applies to trucking, anything when it comes to hiring a small business. Like my dad has the hardest time finding drivers. That's the hardest thing to do is to find drivers, right?
100%.
But there's businesses and people who have done it successfully.
Yeah.
So,
but you got to keep in mind is a trucker. Your dad is the prerequisites and the skill set needed to drive a truck have nothing to do with your dad, right? Those truck drivers get their, it's outsourced. The skill training isn't your dad's responsibility. It's the truck drivers. He has to go out. He has to go get the skill set to be able to functionally run the truck. He already comes to your dad knowing how to drive a truck.
Yeah.
He already knows how to do the paperwork. When somebody comes to me, they don't know how to detail a car. I mean, everybody knows how to wash a car.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to detail a car.
You're gonna have to teach them
what
all
if
that
you
from
tie your
scratch.
brother and then now your brother's in charge of teaching others?
That's definitely something that's
I just
possible.
I like thinking about stuff.
Oh, no, 100%.
That's just where my mind goes.
Hey, if that's something that he chooses to do, I mean, at the end of the day, my piece is my piece. If for whatever reason, we come at it and I take 20%, that additional 80%. If he wants to take somebody else out there and split the profit with them in an attempt to further grow his 80%, right? Because at the end of the day, he's the one putting in the work. So if he wants to do 4 cars, right, he's gonna get 80% of those 4 cars. But if he thinks that teaching somebody else and adding another person to his crew is going to increase the piece of the pie, that 80% is gonna grow, right? It's gonna grow the amount of money that he's gonna make is gonna grow by him bringing somebody else along. Then that's up to him, man. That's something where me as a big brother,
You're just gonna be out.
I'd be out of it now. If, like I said, once again, boss man, that boss mentality. If the results, if Nico, it gets to a point. That's my little brother.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, Nico.
Nico's a cool name.
If he's outsourcing the work, I source the work to him, and he's outsourcing it to somebody else, and those results start coming back down, then it's my job, at that point, to come at him and straighten everything out.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Well, I could keep talking about because I can go on a rant on tangent just by speaking. Because even if I ask Anthony, when it comes to even growing our small business, because you're right, the hardest part is growing a small business, continuing after first year, 2 years.
Yeah.
And our shirt, the difficulty with shirts is that
Customers.
it's finding customers. That's gonna be the hardest part, and there's so many different ways to get customers, but if somebody doesn't really love the shirt or they don't love the messaging, they're not gonna buy.
But then that's
right?
also when it comes back to like our recurring customers. We also have like.
So we do have recurring customers, but like how you said, the hardest part is the beginning.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're at. We're in that stage. We haven't even hit a year, and we'll see. We'll see.
And right now you're gonna experience the most growth. Starting out your business, you're gonna see exponential growth at at a crazy rate. You know?
Oh yeah, like the first week, man, we were so happy because we got 200 followers and we made like X amount of money, and then ever since then,
That plateaued.
that's the first week, and now it's been 7 months and we're at 560. So it has slowed. Like we were getting so much of support, but then once we hit our plateau of people who support, now it's like okay, now we have to find people.
Now you got it. Now it's your job
to find people who just don't
creative
know me.
ways. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. It's finding creative ways to reach new people that connect with your message,
Yeah.
and finding new people who are, like I said, connect to the message that you guys are trying to send with your business, and hopefully get a sale out of them. And that's the most difficult part, man. And I can't tell you how many times I've changed up my business strategies, right? Because every business has one, whether that be something that you're constantly thinking about, or it just it's something that comes naturally. Every business has one, man. And I mean, if you want, I can kind of give you how my business mindset
This
has
is all
changed.
about you, bro. I want to
Yeah,
just know about you.
So when I first started my business, my mindset was reaching as many people as possible. My mindset was, to give you an example, is I'd take 5 customers at $20 opposed to 1 customer at $100. And a lot of people are like, why would you do that? And my mindset, and like I said, this is just something that, like, I don't know where it came from, man. I mean, I was never taught this, but it just made sense for me. Somebody who's attempting to grow their business, the foundation and the ability to grow your business is expanding the amount of people that you've provided services for. So, me doing 5 customers and 5 satisfied customers in that, now those people tell their friends. So, right, one person definitely doesn't know as many people as 5 people,
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
So it just made more sense for me to do those 5 people. They tell their friends. So now I'll, give you another, example is those 5 people tell 2 people. My circle just grew from 5 people to 10 people.
You've never read anything. You've never listened to anything.
Never,
On YouTube.
It's a great
man.
mindset.
Never,
It's a great mindset. I
and
give you props for it. I mean.
and it's like that one person would have to tell 10 people to
Yeah.
match that, and that's how I was able to grow my business. Now I'm in a position where because up until about 6 months ago, the quality of service was vastly different than the price. I was extremely undercharging myself. I was
Yeah.
giving, a $50 service that should have been $100,
Oh wow.
And now I'm at a point where I'm okay with turning away business, but in that one job that I get, I'm making just as much as I would
That's
doing
so
5
cool.
jobs.
I don't believe that you haven't read anything or nothing.
No, man, I haven't. Like I said, dude, it's
Because that's so hard to comprehend. Like, there's some people who will. It's not hard to comprehend when you've educated yourself, but there are some people who, like, okay, for the wedding industry, for instance, right? I'm in the wedding industry where I film videography. I do videos for weddings.
okay.
There's some people who will be like, man, like, I'll tell them how much I charged for my first wedding.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, are you kidding me? That's cheap as hell. But here's the thing. I have no proof of concept. There's nothing in my resume, or there's nothing to show that I'm worth what I want to charge.
Exactly.
So people have a hard time understanding that you have to start. Sometimes, like, no, actually, the first one I did was almost free. I actually spent money. It was my cousin's, and I went to South Carolina. And I went, but I did it because first I wanted to go see family too. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't seen them in forever, but I did it also for the wedding. But people don't understand that you have to prove your value.
100%.
And so, but that's so crazy for me to hear that, like, you, like, just straight up. I mean,
off the jump, an 18-year-old kid, and like I said, once again, this entire conversation started with you thinking that I was just older than I was. Get that all the time. I had somebody tell me, I didn't know if I took it as a compliment, but she's like, you're 25, dude. You look like a grown man. You got kids to go back home to, and I'm like, no, I'm 20 years old.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing is that your face doesn't look old,
It's the way I
right?
carry myself,
But
right?
it's the way you talk, even your speak, like the way you're speaking. There's no stutter.
Yeah.
It's like I can tell you're kind of thinking
articulate.
about.
Yeah.
You're very articulate, and that's something that even me, I have a hard time being articulate, and so I have practiced not just trying to talk just for talking, but being more like thinking more of what I'm gonna say before I say it. You know?
Yeah, no.
But that's crazy. That's why you seem older, because of the way you speak too. It's like,
yeah, man. It's just like I said.
it's
It
like
comes
a
back
combination
down.
of multiple things.
It comes back down to the amount of relationships, the amount of people. I can't tell you how many conversations I have in a day. It's like introducing myself to a new customer, performing the work, spending an additional 10 minutes, explaining the services that I offered them, and then, potentially, I always find a way to, turn the conversation into something personal. I make it a point to make that impact, that thing, that conversation, that when they reference back to me, they not only see the services that I'm offering, but also that conversation that put a smile on their face. When they think of 559 Detail, I don't want them to just think about car detailing. I want them to think about Chris. I don't want them to think about. I want them to think about me. And like I said, man, that's just. It comes with time, man. I mean, and you doing this, and you speaking for hours on end to new people, eventually you're going to acquire that skill set to be able to, talk for minutes on end. I mean, you can't get me to shut up sometimes, I get that all the time.
It makes the podcast way easier though when somebody is able to just continue like their thought, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I get in trouble for it all the time.
No, dude, I love it, bro. I ramble as well, man. I ramble a lot too.
Yeah, and it gets me in trouble, dude. I'm telling you, my mom, I can't tell you how many times she got calls from teachers growing up. I was getting in trouble.
Okay, then how about who were you in high school? Who was Chris? Was he were you like a all-star athlete? Were you?
I played sports. I wouldn't consider myself an all-star athlete. I mean, the biggest, sort of athletic recognition that I got was being a freshman on varsity baseball. Which
He's a badass.
Which hadn't happened in a while. But, I mean, that's a story in itself. I mean, I learned so many things in sports. It's ridiculous. I think that sports has taught me so many things that have directly translated into the success of my business. It's ridiculous. I mean, resiliency, for one. I mean, you go out there and, on a good day, you're going 2 for 4 at the plate, and that's a good day. You strike out twice, but you get on base 2 times. Hey, dude, you're hitting pretty good, man. So it's like those things, it's like, have helped me in so many ways that I can't explain. Just something that sports, I mean, I owe sports a lot, man. I love sports. They were a huge part of, my dad's relationship. I mean, my dad, the way that he showed love was taking me out twice a week to the baseball field, and we'd hit baseballs for 3 hours. Just not saying a word. I mean, we occasionally, talk shit a little bit, which, all sons and dads do. But I mean, we would just go out there and, just the sound of the baseball hitting the bat and, the ball hitting the glove, that was enough. And, he taught me so many invaluable lessons that, I take into my business. And takes nothing away from my mom. Obviously, my mom has taught me a lot too, but this is just in reference to sports. They taught me a lot, man.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So you did baseball. What else did you do?
Football. Football was one of the sports where I was middle of the pack. I mean, I started my junior year. I didn't start my senior year. I could go into that, but I don't want to go into that. I love football. You know, if I didn't love it, I wouldn't have been out there. And you know, there are things that I learned from football. The failures. I mean, my senior year was probably the worst year of sports for me, but the things that I learned from that, I mean, you know, for one, never quitting. I mean, there were countless times where I would come home in tears because of how bad practice went, about how bad I felt after a football practice. But I never quit. That was the one thing that my dad hammered inside of my head was, you're not going to quit. You started it, you're not going to quit. You're not going to let somebody else win. And, I mean, that's all that I'm going to speak on it. But I will never let somebody else determine my success. At the end of the day, I choose to either be successful or I choose to be unsuccessful. And every day, oh, you're good, man. And every day that I wake up, man, you know, I come in with the mindset that I'm going to be successful.
That's super cool.
That's pretty cool that you mastered. I'm not gonna say math. I don't know if master is the right word, but that you got that at a young age. You know.
Yeah, that understanding, and you know, I went through a lot of things in sports that those last couple of years that, you know, not a whole lot of kids would be able to make it through, and you know, I made it through, and that was the definition of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, man.
Basically, bro.
That's cool though, bro. Like, yeah, like you're kind of like almost in a sense speaking into it. It shows how you think too, like telling yourself that, you know, I'm gonna be successful today and stuff. It can be so challenging for people to be there, you know, and to even think about that, you know, because it's so like alien. Like when I grew up, that was never me growing up, right? It was not like, my dad didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
But my dad, you know, he worked really hard to provide for us. You know, he
led by example.
Yeah, so he hustled and all that stuff, but there was never like we weren't forced to be in sports, and we weren't forced to even have good grades. The way my parents was like, just don't fail.
Yeah.
So just have at least.
And that's where I thank my parents for that every day, man.
That's super cool. Like even right now, I'm working on my mindset, and so like. Me, I had to educate myself by listening and reading books to form the mind, and then like when it's like you have an edge, kind of in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's super cool.
100%.
It's super cool to hear. To be honest,
like parents are invaluable, man. You can't replace them, man. You know, my parents they not only lead by example, man, but they want me to learn from their mistakes, and they're extremely vocal about it. One of the biggest things growing up was being a student athlete. You know, I was never forced to participate in sports. It was just something that I loved doing. And, you know, thankfully, you know, I love doing it because without them, like I said, I wouldn't be where I am today. But also, you know, pushing me in the classroom, which directly, once again, correlates to my ability to manage my time, not only as a businessman and as an entrepreneur, but also as a student in the classroom. You know, striving for excellence, right? Because every time I step in the classroom, if I'm not the smartest kid in the room. I'm the kid who, you know, I was in AP classes in high school. I took honors classes, and I was the kid who had to stay after class to talk to the teacher about a problem that I just didn't get that everybody else in the class was able to get off the jump. But I felt comfortable enough in my skin to ask those questions to the teacher, which allowed me to be successful in the long run. And like I said, I mean, every time I step in the classroom, I mean, I have to give it 120%, because if not, I'm gonna fall behind. And that's been an issue, to say the least, with, you know, trying to run my business, but also give it 120% in the classroom. But I've found a way to, you know, be successful. Maybe not as successful as I'd like to be in the classroom, but successful enough to be in a position where I'm able to compete in an extremely rigorous career, and compete or have sufficient grades to where I'm able to compete with the other kids who are also applying to the Fresno City program and these other programs. Because nursing, everyone and their grandma wants to be a nurse, and in order to get in these programs, you gotta have grades, you gotta have extracurriculars, you gotta have all of these things. And like I said, man, I'm middle of the pack with the grades. So right now, like I said, I'm studying for the TEAS exam, so I just gotta do exceptionally well like that. But yeah,
And
man.
what would you say inspired you to become a nurse?
Financial stability.
Money?
Yeah. CRNAs are some of the highest paid people in the medical field. I mean, the responsibility directly correlates to the pay. These guys are making, upwards of 6 figures off the jump. Once you get that piece of paper, everybody gets old, So there's never a lack of, or should I say, a lack of need for nurses. There's always going to be a need for them. So eventually, because I've been told time and time again that this skill set that I have could allow me to be a successful businessman. Hey, why are you going to nursing school? You have this business. You obviously have all of these skills to be successful. Being a businessman, why aren't you going to business school? That's the biggest question that I'm ever asked. No, I'm not. And my answer to them is I needed no schooling to be successful in the business that I have now, which proves that I don't need a degree to tell me how successful I can be. If I have a piece of paper, a nursing credential that I can fall back on at any point in time and be able to provide for my family, then I'm able to make riskier investments and feel comfortable enough to fall back on my 9 to 5, and that 9 to 5 is making me, $100,000, $200,000. So just the comfortability of, at some point in my life being able to make these financial decisions without a second thought. Putting 20,000, 30,000, however much money it is on a potential investment and losing it, but still having the ability to go back to work that next month and make that money back in the span of 2 to 3 months. So that gives me solace.
Man. No, business school you don't need. You're running a business already without it, so why would you need to pay money? I don't think business school is as useful as as your what is it, CRNA?
Yeah, CRNA, man.
Yeah, because I'm kind of I'm more on the side of I think school as of right now is too expensive, and I think is a waste of time, especially if you don't know what you want. You hear a lot of people going to school just to go to school, and it's if you don't know what you want to do and then you keep changing your major, you're just getting more in debt, right? But the only exception is if you're being in the medical degree because they pay very well. If you're going to be a lawyer, if you're going to be an engineer, there's certain jobs where we need and you need an education. They're going to pay well, so you're gonna get rid of that debt fairly easily. Yeah. Whereas other people where they'll go and they'll get their even criminology degree, which is you don't need it to be a cop or anything, right?
Yeah.
And you could use it to help you progress faster, but it's not a necessity.
Yeah, 100%.
But that's where I'm at with school. But you got any questions, man? You're pretty quiet today.
Nah, bro. I honestly, bro, I could sit here and just talk to you.
Did you guys know each other?
Yeah, we did. We played football with each other,
we
man. Yeah, I don't think he was. Did you play? Did you stop playing at any point?
Yeah, I stopped playing my sophomore year.
Yeah.
I played my sophomore year, and then when it came to junior and senior, it was just too much stuff going on for me to go back. But honestly, bro, it's just sitting here and listening to you is wow, because you never really know people until you sit down and actually talk to them. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's I guess the way you say your comprehensiveness, the way you just relate to things and how you understand them and the way you move. Because you're even talking about sports, even that even shows you strategies in life, how you relate them. Getting to know people, making those relationships, understanding how those people work with other people. You know what I mean? I think because it's pretty interesting, bro. It's it's because again, coming from a family where it's not really that mindset isn't there, where you create it for yourself, it gives you a lot of respect. Yo, bro, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because you embellish it very perfectly. You understand it, and you make sure that you're saying everything. Just like, for example, when you're talking about your detailing, like when you go out there, you're making sure you're doing everything right. But it's like the way you connect it is like, yo, that it's really interesting, and it just kind of trips me out, you know. But I mean, dude, respect to you, hats off. Like it's crazy, man. Because I don't want to say you're probably like the son that every dad wants to have.
Yeah,
you know
man.
what I mean?
My dad probably wouldn't say that at times,
Yeah.
man. I give him a lot of
No,
trouble.
yeah,
I give
bro,
him
but
a
I
lot of
think-
hassle.
Dude,
But
it's pretty cool. You know what I mean? I just, hey, you know, hats off to you, dude. You know, I mean, again, I feel like because you know, that's crazy, bro. That's really crazy.
yeah, you know, like, and that's another thing too. It's like you don't know what people are going through.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
everybody has a story. Everybody has their problems. But you know, once again, referencing back to my business, man, it's like going into that job, meeting new people. It's like I make it a point to make a connection with them, man, and to put a smile on their face.
Yeah.
And you know, at times I look dumb, I sound dumb, but I put a smile on their face,
Yeah,
man,
for sure.
and they remember that, and that they come back to me, and you know, it's a quid pro quo, man. You know, they're not only getting something out of me, I'm getting something out of them, you know, and I'm thankful for that. Thankful for that.
I think you can expand it though, man. I mean, we could go off on that, but I think do you have any more questions?
I'm good. I'm set. We answered all the questions like.
Oh,
really
just flow.
flows.
See what I mean? Dude? Just flow combo, dude. Just
Well, I just want to say something,
Go
bro.
for
Actually,
it.
because you kind of like opened my eyes a bit. Because like for a little bit, I've been iffy about going to school and stuff like that. But honestly, I think I'm supposed to start in January. Like,
For what?
Well, actually, I'm trying to get into the criminology part to be a California
oh,
officer.
sure. I just
You
talked
don't
about
need it.
that.
No, you're good. Bro. You're good. Honestly, because the thing is, I mean, again, we can disagree all the time. You know what I mean? But I feel like for criminology, when you go on, if you're a CHP, you have opportunities to grow there. You know what I mean? That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to do. You know?
And that's a great
Yeah, it's
field. My
yeah.
dad's a correctional officer, and I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, he from the way he explains things is, I would never be a correctional officer or anything in the department of, you know, criminology,
Yeah.
just because of the things that he tells me,
Oh, yeah,
man.
for
But
sure,
I
for
mean,
sure.
what he's been able to do for me, you know, just goes to show that, you know, you're able to, with that job, you're able to, you know, provide for your kids.
100%.
You're able to be there for them when they need you. And, you know, there are certain jobs that don't allow you to do that. But, you know, he has made it a point to, you know, to do those things,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So, and you going into that field, I mean, don't let anybody ever tell you, because that's a common misconception is like, you know, cops, it's a horrible field to get into, especially right now. I mean,
100%,
It's
yeah.
tough.
cops
to get into right
cops
now,
are some of
but-
the most hated people on the streets,
Oh, you
man.
you can't hate cops.
Yeah.
And you know,
Without them, what are you gonna do?
yeah, and that's a story in itself, man. But
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
with that career, you'll be able to provide for your family,
Oh,
man. You'll
100%,
be
it's a
able.
6-figure job, dude.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, if you're willing to put in the hours, the overtime
Yeah,
is
that's
always
what it
there.
100%.
Then you know you can. The sky's the limit, man. The sky's the limit. The benefits are great, and you can't beat it, man. You just can't beat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm not hating on the job either.
No,
man.
dude, you're
I was
good,
just
honestly.
talking. I was talking about the criminology
Yeah.
because my brother both my brothers are COs.
Right.
I was gonna be a CO,
Mhm.
but you don't need a degree to be.
No,
a
yeah,
CO.
that's what I'm saying,
That's my
but-
only point.
Yeah, but my whole point is
I'm not
this.
hating on you as well.
No, you're good. 100%. I understand you 100%. But my whole thing is this: like the way basically that role works is you always have chances to basically go somewhere else and to do something else. You know what I mean? I don't want to just be technically a CHP, be there 15, 20 years. Oh, I'm screwed. This is where I'm gonna be stuck. And then who knows? Maybe I end up hating it. You know what I mean? But my whole thing is like he was saying, if I can get a degree to have something to fall back on, that's just like, yo, like I have another way to provide for my family. You know what I mean? In that sense. Again, I don't, you know, again, like you said, like school's not for everybody. You know,
Yeah,
but I
it's just not for everybody.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I just don't. I hate. I was not good at school. I
Yeah.
tried going back, and I just.
it just depends in what you're trying to do. He said it perfectly. You
Yeah.
know, there are certain fields that you absolutely need a degree. Nursing, for example.
Yeah.
Business,
Yeah.
you don't.
I want you to help, but I need you to be educated.
Yeah.
I like it when you stab me. You miss
Yeah,
it,
you're
or
right.
whatever,
You know,
what
it's
the hell do I do
like-
next? Look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. There are just some things, and then there are some jobs where it's trial and error, like
Yeah.
like me, man. You know, I needed absolutely no degree. I got by hard work, and you know that's something that everybody has the ability to do. They determine, how hard they work, and that directly, I use this word a lot, man, but it directly correlates to the amount of success that you have, and for a very long time, man. I mean, that's one of the things that business taught me was work ethic. There were times where it'd be 110 degrees outside, literally 110 degrees outside. I'd be in pants, I'd be in boots, I'd be in a long sleeve to keep the sun out because I burn, and when I burn, I get redder than a tomato.
Yeah.
I keep all that on. It's 110, feels like it's 120. No restrooms whatsoever, because the last thing, there are so many things that when I tell people, they're just like, wow, that's pretty crazy. I don't have a restroom. I'm in Sanger, and I don't know the customer. A lot of times the customers leave me the keys to their car, so I'm not going to ask them to use the restroom. So what do I have to do? I have to pack up all my stuff, which takes 15 minutes. I have to go find a restroom, which takes me another 15 minutes, right? And it's just like all of these things makes it extremely difficult. But going back to it, it's this business has taught me work ethic, right? It's the amount of energy that you put into your business affects how much money you make, right?
Sure.
When I had first started, I was working 12-hour days, coming home, doing 4 hours of homework, and doing the same thing the next day, and not knowing when my next day was gonna be. Because remember, at the time, my mindset was I have to do as many people as possible to grow my business. So I was never willing to turn away business, right? So there were times, there was at one point where I worked 17 days straight without a day off, took a day off, worked another 12 days in a row, had another day off, and it was just one of those things where when I got a day off, I got a day off. I just had no work that day, or I had something else to do, whether that had been a doctor's appointment or a family event. I was able to take that one day off, but then I was back to work again the next day. Come to work, get off, come home, do homework, eat, shower, same thing again the next day. And it's just like, because I was willing to sacrifice that amount of time, I was able to be successful. I'm able to sit here today, look back, and say like, all right, man, like, all those hours that you put in, it was worth it.
Yeah, and then even you saying, you work 17 days in a row, there's going to be a lot of people who don't want to do that. They're going to be like, I got plans, I can't show up today, well, for whatever reason.
And that's why I'm thankful too, because it couldn't have come at a better time. This is why I say this business just literally, by the grace of God, got thrown on my lap. Because if it would have been any other time, if I would have gone to school, if I would have been in school, because I had a 6-month period where there was no school, there was no college, or college was online. So I was able to work 12-hour days, and that's all that I had. My mom was one of those people who was extreme, and myself included. I have asthma, my brother has some ailments, my mom has ailments, my dad's the healthy one, sucker. But my mom made it a point, the only time you're stepping out of this house is to go to work. So it was my escape, right? It allowed me to get out of the house. So I never saw it as a job. I saw it as my escape to get out of this little bubble that I'm in when I get home. Because once I get home, there's no contact with the outside world, man. I might as well be in wherever, freaking the Congo, because I just wasn't seeing anybody,
Yeah.
Or if I was seeing them with the mask on. So it happened at the perfect time. The fact that I was able to work 17 days in a row without any consequences, without any distractions, because that's the biggest thing that I see now is I take weekends off now because there's so much going on. There's so much life to catch up on that I don't need to work the weekends, right? There's just so many other things that I'd rather be doing.
I
And
see
at that time,
you post a lot of cool stuff. I'm like, dang, dude.
and I allow myself to do that now, but there was a period of time where I didn't have that opportunity,
Yeah, for sure.
I was stacking my pennies, because there was nothing to do. If I would make $100, that $100 would either go back into the business, which correlated to me being able to provide better services for my customers, which directly correlates to more money,
100%.
or it goes into my bank account, which also correlates to my finances going up. So at that time, everything that I was doing was related to
Business.
growing my business.
Yeah.
Not only my business, but growing it.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people don't understand that too. Is that no matter what you do, doesn't matter where you go, what you're gonna decide to do, everything's gonna take time.
Yeah.
So if you want to start your business, it's gonna take time. Even us, sometimes we don't see sales. And it's like, this sucks. It's hard right now, but we got to keep going. We got to learn through it. Maybe we're not doing something right. Maybe it's our marketing. Maybe it's what we're posting. Are people relating to it? Is our website good? You know, there's so many things that go into it that it's not just one problem, or if there's not just like one solution. It's like there's multiple things. But it's like pushing through these hard times, and it's gonna make us better as people to run a business. But all that's gonna take time. Everything. So if you think it's gonna be something fast, or I'm gonna pick this and that's it. Even you being a CR, what is CRNA?
Yeah, CRNA.
How long is that taking you to be that?
So I did 2 years of my undergrad. I got all the prerequisites to get into nursing school. So if I get into nursing school next summer, it's 2 years. Graduate, a year of ER experience. Go back to school for another 2 years to a specialty program. 2 years there, and then CRNA. So 4 years. 4 years of schooling from now, or 6 years of schooling, because you have your 2 undergrads, you have your 2 years of nursing, and then you have your 2 years of specialty of your specialty program.
Exactly, but that's 4 years. 4
6.
years or 6 years,
Yeah.
but 4 years from now, right?
Yeah, probably longer than that, because I still have my 2 years of nursing. I have a year of residency, of getting experience within an ER,
Yeah.
and then 2 more years of schooling. So, hopefully by the age of 28, I'm still young, still
Yeah,
21.
you're still young, but like my point is, everything's gonna take time.
Yeah.
Even you to get that paid very well, it's gonna take.
Oh, well, that's the nice thing about being a nurse, man. You jump into that thing and you're making 6 figures off the jump. And, depending on where you go, man, there's always a need for nurses, man. And once again, man, I'm learning so much in this business, that, bedside manner. One of the biggest things is making relationships with your patients, and I'm able to do that, and I'm able to do that efficiently and effectively. I'm able to make people feel comfortable, and that plays a huge part in being successful as a nurse. So, pretty excited for what the future holds, man. I know it's going to be a lot of work, but my entire life has, contrary to popular belief, man, like you were saying, you never know what people are going through. I always had this sort of facade where, things were easy. I had a nice car, I had nice clothes on. Thank you, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of problems and issues that I was personally going through at the time. And, it was hard. But life is hard,
It's hard.
And this business, man, it's taught me a lot. It's hard. Working is hard. Going outside and mustering up the energy to get up at 7 in the morning to go wash 5 cars. You're going to be out in the sun for 12 hours. It's hard. Knowing that you still have to come home and do 4 hours of homework. You got a test next week that if you don't get a C on it, you're going to fail the class. It's hard, You don't want to put in those hours, but you do it anyways, because when you look down the road,
Yep.
you see the light at the end of the tunnel, man. No matter how small, minuscule that light is, you see it, and it gives you hope. And it gives me hope, man. The one thing that my parents, like I said, they say this all the time, man. It's like, get that degree, man. It's one of the most important things in life. Is if you're able to get that degree and be educated, there's nothing that anybody can tell you, man. And I take that to heart, man.
That's super cool, man. Yeah, it's like that saying, the best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And right now, because when 50 years pass, you'll have that tree. So
Yeah.
that's super cool to hear, bro. You're freaking.
It's also like the other saying where it's like,
Tell me. Saying.
life's like a box of chocolates.
Just
Just
kidding.
Just kidding.
That's cool, bro. All right, well, where can people find you?
559DETAIL.
Shout out 559 Detail, guys.
559DETAIL _ I think on Instagram. You can, you know, it has all of my information, my phone number on there.
Ooh.
It has all of that stuff on there. So, you know, I'm excited. I mean, I'm always looking for new relationships. So, you know, if
That's
you're
cool. So you gotta hit this guy up. If you need detailing, you make sure you hit this guy up. You know what? He's not only gonna be your detailer, he's gonna be one of the bestest friends you could ever have, right?
That's right, man. That's
right.
right.
All right. Out. Peace. Later, guys.